Greetings, Andy here again, and we've reached day 13 and number 12 on my Advent calendar countdown of favourite new albums of 2023. And I've got a double header today because, as I said in all the notes, that if something comes out in December, I'll just sort of add it in somewhere in the set, and this is I've got one which I want to include, so I'm sort of putting it in the middle because I'm not quite sure where. It definitely would have been in my top 24, but I'm not quite sure where, so we'll come to that in a minute. And I'm going to kick off with the one I originally planned as my number 12, and that is the album Atta, A-T-T-A, released by Sear Ross. And I have talked about this a few times before, so I'll be sort of brief. I mean, Sear Ross are one of my favourite bands of all time, and I will often go on about them. This album it's roughly 10 years since their previous studio album, which was Valtteri. Valtteri in itself continued their move away from their early roots of classic post-rock, really. It's a great post-rock band, and towards much more of an ambient sound, and this is yet another step in that direction. It is very ambient. It's a beautiful record musically, but it doesn't really grab me, and to be frank, I find it quite soporific. It is that ambient. It's, if I'm honest, the other day, the other afternoon, I might say, I sort of settled in the living room to have another listen to this because I hadn't listened to it for a couple of months, and the next thing I knew, there was a knock on the door and it was Amazon delivering something, and I dropped off during the first track and it was still on the first side, so that probably says it all, though I was probably a bit knackered at the time. So anyway, it's a double album. It's got some great artwork there, and each of the album, now this is quite unusual because lots of people recently, and the next album is the same, have been sort of dropping the odd track in digital form before actually releasing the album. This album was released fully in digital only months before the actual physical copies were released, so I'd had the opportunity to properly listen to it, and I did really like it, and want it, but I didn't like it enough to fork out for because it was bloody expensive, the really fancy coloured vinyl they had for these. So I've just got the black, and let me put that down a minute, and they're all sort of, it's a double, as I say, they're all colour coded. Each side has a colour code which sort of matches the banner there, the sort of rainbowish one, red, yellow, green, blue, and so do the inner sleeves, the original inner sleeves. They're cardboard though, so I don't keep stuff in cardboard. As I say, it's very ambient, but in a beautiful way. There's no drumming on it, and personally, I miss that. Even though it does have some beat to it. It's not not without that. I find as an example, the last track, which you can't quite see there, is called 8, and it's quite a long track. And the first half of it's fine, and then it sort of seems to have finished, and then suddenly comes back again. But the last half of it just sort of meanders along without really doing anything, and that really is the problem for me with this album. So, but it's good enough to be halfway through my top 24. Had it been more like some of their earlier stuff, it would have been vying for number 1 and 2, I'm absolutely sure. So a late entry, but I've got to mention it. It was released, I think, on the 1st of December, though I've only got it a few days ago, about a week ago. Only listened to it once. And that is the new album by Peter Gabriel, and it's called I.O., I''O, which is usually short for input-output. So I don't know if that's actually what it means. And this is a bit sort of unusual. I didn't pre-order it. He did produce. He's done 2 mixes, and there's the dark side and the bright side, and then has been for the last year sort of releasing a track at a time on the full moon, the bright side track, and the new moon, the dark side track. I listened to a couple of them early on, but it was all a bit piecemeal and bitty, so I left it then to hear the whole album, but then decided I was completely confused as to which one to go for, because there's a whole album of bright side mixes and a whole album of dark side mixes, and in the end I opted for the dark side mix, probably for no other reason than in reading a couple of reviews. One person said that they felt, and that was their view, that the bright side mix worked well with individual tracks, so when you're just listening to a track, whereas the dark side mix worked better as a cohesive album, and that was enough to sway me. It's sort of, weigh them up. I don't know, but I really like, first listen, I really like it. It comes with, let's do the artwork first of all. That's a fabulous photo on there where you can see the eye across the finger there. The back with all the title, with all the tracks on there, and then there's the eye in the middle there, and the insides are all, the dark side mix is blue, so they've actually coloured the inside there, and it has an obi strip on it, which tells you that it's the dark side mix, otherwise you wouldn't know. And it comes with a really nice booklet, really quite, I don't know how many pages there are in this, but quite a lot, with some fabulous photos in, and it's got all, as you go through, it's got all the lyrics in it, and then later on it's got all the who played on each one. And this is again a bit of a comeback, like the Sear Ross one, but even longer. So it's roughly 20 years ago that Gabriel produced his last studio album, Up, and I actually went to see him when he was touring that. And this is a really good album. Personally, compared to my all-time favourite is the first one, Car. Well, it's called Peter Gabriel 1, or Car because of the cover on it. But that's sort of because it was his first one, and I went to see him on that first tour. And I was very into Genesis up until the point where he left, and then not for me after that. This came in black. I don't know whether it was available in coloured vinyl, but I got the black one. It's heavyweight. It's a double. It's a really good album. I don't think it's quite up there with So or a couple of his first ones, but it's certainly well worth getting. I suspect if I had listened to this 3 or 4 times in amongst all the others, it probably would have been higher, but I don't know because I've only heard it once. So anyway, there you go. That's my double header for day 13 and my number 12. So thanks for watching. Come back tomorrow and see you again. Cheers.